least try to achieve, your ultimate goal of trying to, gain a client and build your sphere. So the biggest thing for me was when I first started, I really delved into the Zillow platform. It was a huge lead generator for me. That's when Zillow, about 10, 11 years ago, was much easier platform to be a part of. It was much more affordable. With Zillow, the way it's set up now, with they're such a huge conglomerate, it tends to be a lot more costly, and you've got to be more of a big group, I think, to even be on their platform anymore. But it did help me kind of generate my base. But I'll tell you that the biggest things is building your sphere and keeping in contact with them, because mostly everything that I get now is referral based. Now, I do mailers. I do a specific farm area, where, my neighborhood, I'm protective of it. I live in Waterford Lake, so I do try to target that area, East Orlando, via mailers. But I'll tell you, managing your sphere and having a good CRM is critical to success, and making sure that your clients stick with you, versus you, um, having to go out and get new. Because as you're aware of, Michelle, it takes a lot longer to get a new than to kind of, cultivate an existing.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
get, yeah, one, two, three, I can get three, four referrals off of just one particular client. So it really is, building the sphere. I wanted to share just a real quick story that I just actually dealt with. You always think, oh, I've been in it for 14 years. I'm seasoned. There's not much more I can learn. Well, whoever says that is way wrong. And I used to be that person. And I learned stuff every month, something new. But one thing that really stands out is about 4 months ago, I had a referral client call me, and they wanted to buy an investment property by Disney, one of those hotel condos that are absolutely so cumbersome to even show. I've done them before, and I've kind of like put in my head, oh God, Bill, you find a different way. The payout, I always thought, from what I had to put into it, they didn't marry me from well enough for me. And I am kind of, very particular on my time, because I'm older, and, I have different things in life right now. But I had this client call and wanted to do this, and the budget was like 110 to 150. So I didn't put it on my priority list. But it was a client who bought a property from me before. Long story short, they had reached out to me a couple times. I set up an MLS search, and I didn't really follow through with it. I put it in the back burner. I didn't respond to a couple calls. Lo and behold, I get a call about 3 weeks ago that they want to list their current home, in Winter Springs. And I was like, oh, amazing, et cetera. Yeah, we hadn't heard from you, Bill. They were under contract for a $550,000 home in Longwood, and they went under contract for a 450,000 townhome in Winter Springs.
Yeah, you
They
never
opt,
know with clients. You never know.
you
Like,
don't know, I never called back. And because of that, they thought I wasn't really doing real estate right now, and I wasn't local because I travel to Ohio frequently. And with the no callback, they opted to go with the listing agent that they got through Zillow when they were checking the home. And, of course, I was upset. I didn't let them know, but I knew that I had kind of, dropped the ball with calling them back. And he made it very clear to me to say, listen, we would have, without question, had used you on these two homes, but we didn't hear back from you. So we just assumed that you weren't local or doing it. So we didn't have a choice. So we opted to go here. I probably lost about $24,000 by those two listings.
such a bummer. I'm sorry. How do you
It
deal
is,
Yeah, how do you deal with, like, rejection or, like, um, getting told that they are gonna go with someone else
you
because of
know,
something
I
that you.
took accountability from it, Michelle, because it was my own fault.
Right.
I didn't call back. He made two attempts to call me, and I didn't follow through. I was being, what's the word? I was almost being too presumptuous in thinking, oh, this $110,000 condo, not saying that I don't sell that price point, because I will. I
Mhm.
just didn't like the cumbersome Disney process of showing those units. They take 5, 6 hours sometimes in some cases. And I just thought, oh, well, let them get us other rep to do something like that. And I was actually going to even refer it out.
Oh,
But
wow.
I didn't make it a priority. It was my own fault. And I admitted it to them. I said, I'm so sorry. I'm going to be honest with you. When you told me Disney, I cringed. But I
Mhm.
should have told you the truth. And I didn't. And he said, if you would have just told us that and told us how you really felt about those properties, we wouldn't have opted to even do them. And you would have been part of this long wooded winter spring sales that we had. And they're, and it really stood clear to me because they still called me to list their home.
Right.
So I thought, okay, I'm still in good graces, but it was truly my own fault. And I admitted it. You have to admit fault. This business is relationship and trust before anything. And if that somehow gets mixed or missed, you've got to admit the fault and stop and don't try to cover it up. I made a mistake. Admitted it. And I told them, and I'll never do it again. It's something I've learned. So I prejudged it when I
Mhm.
shouldn't have. That's the bottom line.
I actually
Don't,
didn't know that the Disney homes were that cumbersome. Well, is it just like, do they just pre-vet you guys like a lot? Like, I'm curious.
it's not so much the homes. Disney properties, I've sold many. I'm talking, these are Disney condo apartments.
Okay.
They are timeshare driven. They go by, the ownership goes by like a board that is kind of like a split ownership plan. So you
Gotcha.
really don't own it. You're renting it most of the time. But it goes through like a front door. I mean, there's a lot involved. The HOAs are 15 to 1800 a month.
Right.
They don't get rented frequently. It's a co-op basically.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's a co-op, and they are just very cumbersome. You got to go through the board, and the amount of work. And for me, being a more experienced agent, I
Right.
kind of look what is my investment time going to be to what I'm going to actually get back. Return versus time. And I was being judgmental on that one. I'll be the first to admit it. I was like, oh, I want nothing to do with this. This is just not worth my time.
But
But
even for
it's
your clients too, like the return, the ROI on that, like if you can't, if it's impossible to get in there to do one showing, how are they going to sell it in the future? Or you know what I'm saying?
100%.
Rented if
But
they
you know what, Michelle? I should have been upfront with that. Instead of telling them exactly how I felt with that, and I should have said exactly what you said. Hey, this is what you're going to run against. It's not as lucrative as you think.
Mhm.
And give them my education historically from doing them. I would have fared much better, but I didn't do that. Instead, I just kind of shunned and shied away from it and just thought, well, maybe they'll just forget about it and ignore it, and never just really followed up. And they took it, they were not upset, but they were very pointed to me about it. That oh, so you're here, everything's fine, and you still didn't call me back. So they made it very well known. They closed last week on both of those properties on that they really wanted me to work with them on them, but they just simply didn't think I was available. So
Right.
it was a loss, but a learning. It's a learning. I swallowed it, and then you just got to move on and learn from it. And I'm glad I have the listing. So
Yeah, I'm happy for you. You deserve
exactly, exactly.
some
Do you have a story about a time that you wasted way too much time with somebody?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You have to really be intuitive in this type of industry too. We can all say we can sell, you can follow a script, you can do all these things. I'm not a script driven guy. I never have been. They're helpful if you're new into sales, but if you can't read the person and the client, it's going to be difficult for you to go through the entire journey of selling the home because it's about them loving you, trusting you, thinking that you have their best interests at heart, and being a knowledge base for them that the industry. But to your point, I've worked with many clients that I can tell, like week one or two, that they just want a glorified home shower. And they're the type of people that want to go out and look at 30 homes and really don't have the intent to buy. And you spend weeks and weeks and months showing properties with no end return. I tend to be much more verbal with those people. I don't show 20 homes. I just won't do it. It's just not in my DNA. I don't feel I need to. I feel like if long as I know what they want. Now we're in a different market today. We're in a buyer's market. So obviously, showing more homes because interest rates are so high is kind of
Right.
the natural field temperature right now. But if you're showing multiple homes so frequently, you've got to be able to narrow them down and figure out what's wrong with what you've shown and why haven't they selected something yet. You'll get those clients that'll say, I don't like the way the toilet's positioned, or the back closet should look like this. And you've got to say, hey, listen, that isn't going to be the driver of you getting this home. You're going to base it on a closet, we're going to be looking for homes forever. So sometimes you've got to be direct too, but it's all in how you say things. So I have found that those clients that have really taken a lot of my time and haven't really shown commitment, I've reduced a lot by just being brutally honest and being very nice and polite, but being like, you sure you're ready to buy now? I always find out if they're under a lease, where they're at financially. I talk to the lender. I figure out before I even take them out what their commitment level is. And if they tell me, you know what, Bill, I'm under a lease, but I'm not going to be ready to buy a home until November, I'm not taking them out now. I'm taking them out in September. And I'll tell them that. I'll set your search up for you now. I always set the search up, but it doesn't make sense for us to look at homes in July when your lease is up in November and you're going to at least need to give them a 60-day notice. You're going to find something that you fall in love with and you're not going to be in the position to buy it. So let's start the search, and we'll go ahead and look in the field around September, October, when you're more in the position to purchase. But I also put a caveat in there that says, if you find something that you absolutely fall in love with and it hits every mark and you want to see it, I'll show it. And then we can get creative with maybe getting out of your lease early. I still put the marker out there. If they do find something, I don't want them to lose it. But it's probably one of the more challenging parts because you want to make sure that you're being respectful to them and their time. And you are going to get those clients that you're going to be like, oh my God, no matter what you're doing and showing them, it's never enough. And you're going to go round. I always try to, and take this constructively, and I am not saying this gender, male against female, but I primarily work with the wife
Yes.
because the wife is the decision
Yep.
maker at the end of the day.
Always. I hate
Always.
that. It's true.
I had a single guy. I had a single bachelor, 35-year-old. He was pre-approved for $1 million. Back when interest rates were 2% and just absolutely nothing was good enough. He was just so unenthusiastic about everything we saw. It was so
And you'll get those. The higher the price point, the more difficult sometimes it is to find what they're looking for because of the money factor. But I'll tell you, the ones that buy homes at 6, 7, 800,000 are the ones that find the home much quicker and they're much more qualified. They're just more into the process. It's the ones that are like 2 and 3 and 4 that are your most cumbersome to deal with.
Those are my favorite. Those are my favorite clients, I have to say.
Which
I
ones? The 2, 3s, and 4s?
Yes, like a 350K buyer, like that's my ideal. Those have always been my best clients.
Oh my God, Michelle, I'm the polar opposite. Mine, and I say that nice, I say that constructively.
Yeah.
Mine are the 6 and 7s. I'll tell you why. The 3s and 4s are great, but usually I have to get closing costs. I've got to be able to help them. There's a financial aspect in there. There's always something I have to do, which is fine.
Maybe it's more fun because it's like it is more intent, like you are more hands-on versus like a 500K buyer. I feel like you could just set them on a search, honestly, and then they'll just be like, I want to see these 3, and then from there we make a decision. Like it's not as much as my
I love it.
Just easier money. I don't know. I prefer the work.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll work with the best of them too, and I agree. But I love those 6, 7s where you're right. I can put the search up. They find 4 or 5 homes. They take them out to C3. We're under contract the next day.
Right.
And the financing and everything just breezes through, and your payout is, much significantly higher.
Yeah.
But the 350s and 4s, they are, I mean, every client is a client, no matter what. And never, one thing I really did in the beginning was judge a book by its cover in this industry. Like I'd get a client and I'd look at them, I'd be like, oh God, they're not even going to be FHA at X amount of money, or I would judge and they'd be pre-approved for 900,000.
Right.
So you never judge a book by its cover ever, anything in sales, but I've done it before and I've learned, hey, every client at every price point, because you can get a client, to your point, Michelle, at 253, which are great clients that eventually refer another one at 8.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely a sphere game, in my opinion. If you don't manage your sphere of people that you've talked to, they will go elsewhere. It's that simple. So I think sphere, connecting with them. I do connection points at least 4 times a year.
Okay.
I do them every quarter, whether it be a birthday. I try to get to know the family, the children. When are their birthdays? Names. So if a milestone comes up, because remember, mom loves you if you love her children.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a milestone that comes up for somebody, and you recognize the child by sending I'll do a handwritten birthday card and
That's
mail it. You would think you gave them a lottery ticket. It's better than any mailer or anything you can do. So the personalized, I think, sphere connection is critical to success, in my
okay.
opinion.
What would you okay, I have a few questions. So I want to know like what the biggest horror story that you've encountered is like with the home, like while you were under contract, something happened during inspection or
Oh
um,
God.
just nightmare clients. And then what would you say are also like your top 5 you should spend the money on this to be more successful, like mailing lists or spending the money on mailers or going crazy at open houses? I don't know. Do you do client events, that sort of thing?
Okay, great. Those are great segues. Okay, so I'll give you the horrifying client story first because mine is very always fresh in my mind. I had a client, a closing. We were getting ready to do a final walkthrough. This was in Eastwood in East Orlando. The house price point was about 6.25. Very demanding seller. So, I mean, very demanding buyer. I represented the buy side. Just a very CPA by trade. His wife was an attorney. They were just very educated. Those people tend to be your toughest because they know numbers, they know real estate, they challenge you, they ask a ton of questions. I love them because they keep me sharp in the industry and what I know. So we're doing a final walkthrough when we're in the master bedroom, and we notice that there's a big piece of plyboard on where the master bed sat. So obviously we didn't see it during inspection or anything because the bed was over it. All of a sudden we're walking in the master bedroom and we hear a hissing sound. I said, oh my God, what is that? And why is there this giant board in the middle of the room? We lift the board up to find a massive roach nest. I'm telling you, when we lifted this board up, there must have been 1,000 cockroaches that came out from these dried, rotted boards underneath this board. Well, you can imagine. And this was a very reputable, high-performing agent's listing. So of course, I called extremely upset. Buyer said, I am not closing on this house. Stop the closing. We're not doing it. Called the agent. I said, and I was very upfront. I said, what did you think you were doing? Did you really feel we were going to notice that, et cetera? Oh my God, I didn't even know it was there. I am so sorry to know why the sellers left. And she took no accountability, which I know when I do final walkthroughs on a listing, I make sure to go through that house before the agent does, just to make sure everything's okay. She didn't. So that was her negligence. Long story short, I was able to save it, but he got a $9,000 credit in flooring, and he requested that all 3 bedrooms get refloored the same flooring so they matched, and that he got a professional exterminating service out there and everything was rectified. We extended it by about 2 weeks, but it did end up closing. So very off the wall, something that I don't think you'll hopefully ever see, but it happened. And it can happen. I've had it happen with cats. I've had it happen with a ton of things on walkthroughs that you've had to extend them because the house simply wasn't prepared or somebody tried to hide something. That's why an inspection is so important. And making sure that when you get the items inspected, that you have them either re-inspected or make sure that they're done correctly. Because at the end of the day, when something doesn't go right, they don't call the lender, they don't call the inspector, they call you. It's always the real estate agent being called when something goes wrong. A year later, it's still you. So I always try to CYA. So that was my horror story as far as um, being sidetracked and side guarded in something that I never in a million years would have ever thought occurred. As far as your other question goes, on more of the 5 things that I invest or that work the most lucrative for me, I do invest into, I still do a Zillow and Realtor.com investment. I do it into a couple zip codes. I'm not as, I don't invest as much as I originally did, but I've been in zip code 32817 for 13 years and I can't quite give it up yet. I'm a premier 5-star agent. I think that's critical. Even if you don't invest into Zillow and you do a small dollar amount, just to be recognized on the platform as a 5-star agent, a lot of clients love that because they can read reviews on you, and you can invest four or $500 a month and still be in a zip code. You might get a lead every now and then, but you still get the accessibility of being the premier agent status. And clients love that. They like that they can go on and I can say, hey, if you want to know about me, go on my Zillow profile. There's 150 5-star reviews. People, you don't have to take it from me. Let's look at what other people say. And I don't do much of an investment in anymore, but I keep the status. I also, like I said, invest in mailers in my farm area where I will send out quarterly mailers. I'll do market trends. I'll do current interest rate trends, where we're sitting at interest rates, free market analysis for your home with no obligation to have to sell. I'm the neighborhood expert, and I list about 6 to 7 homes that I have recently sold in the neighborhood, and I list how long they took me to sell. Thankfully, those homes were sold within 14 days. So I was able to show some good market time and the strategy behind that. I invest, like I said, in the CRM just to make sure that I'm, managing and following my sphere. I don't do much, and I'm not saying this is powerful for a new agent, but because I'm more seasoned, I really don't do a lot of open houses or do much with open houses because my sphere is really my main driver of business. But as a new agent, when I first started, I took every open house I could get because I was able to get buyer leads from them when they came in. A lot of people you're going to get a 50-50 mix on an open house. You'll get some people that'll be nosy in the neighborhood that just want to look at the house and have no intent to buy. But then you'll get maybe 2 or 3 that come in with full intent to buy that have no agent. That might just be here for the weekend. So those were lucrative in the beginning, but now that I'm more seasoned, I kind of shift my time a little bit to different things. I do client appreciation annual meetings where I'll do like a meeting and I'll rent Cooper's Hawk or the party room for my top clients in that area and my biggest referral clients. Pop Stroke, something where I can just show clients an appreciation day for what they've done. Those are really more of my high referral clients and the clients that I have repetitively worked with. With 13 years, you've got 400 or 500 clients in your base. You've got to be able to hone that down to make it, affordable for yourself too. So I kind of take my highest volume client and the ones that really are the most connected with me, that are local, that live here. Some of your clients that you sell to move out of state. Things change in your sphere. But those prove to be beneficial because you're able to see them. I also try to make sure once I sell a home within that calendar year, I always go back and visit them once to say, hey, when you get settled and get into the house, I would love to see how you made it your own. And they're always like, oh my God, we would love to have you over. And I don't forget it. So 3 months after that, I call them and I'll say, hey, you settled? Everything good? How's everything going? The kids in school? You create that personal rapport with them, keep it like you're their best friend. And hey, I'm going to be in the neighborhood here the next week or so. What works for you for me to just pop by? I got something small for the kids or whatever. You walk in with a $5 gift.
I
But
love
you
that.
get
I've
in,
never done that.
yeah. Oh God, I do it all the time. And you get in there, you recognize the kids if they do, and if they don't, you recognize them. I always give a closing gift. It's just who I am. I always attend a closing. I always attend an inspection. I always attend an appraisal. Always without fail. I will cancel a trip to attend a closing. I think it's so important to be there during that milestone and for you to hand them the key, not a title agent, you. And then I give a gift. Usually I'll give like a Ring doorbell, or I'll give something pertaining to the home that signifies, every time they ring that doorbell, they're going to think of Bill. Or I give them something to put on the refrigerator with my name on it, a magnetic business card. So there's always a reminder of who I am in their house. And then the visit, like I said, the visit really probably sticks clear of anything that I'm telling you, is because you're going back and now they know that you care about them. It wasn't just about making money in the sale, that you've cared about them after the sale was closed and you still went to visit. That to me, it speaks volumes with referral base, because a lot of people will tell me, we've referred this person to you, Bill, because we told them how much we love you and how much we trust you. And, you're the guy that can get this done. They need to be with you. And that's all because of the relationship built during the transaction, not because I'm an agent with X brokerage and X knowledge and X amount of money or dollars. It's what I created with them one-on-one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I've also noticed that a lot of agents in Florida, I come from Chicago market, which is completely different, but up north, everyone attends everything. You attend every showing, you do every final walkthrough, you go to every inspection, every contractor meetup. Here in Florida, I've noticed not a lot of agents do at all.
Yeah.
It's just
And
like
it's such a
knock,
miss.
knock, showing, and I feel like that really does set you apart as an agent if you're doing that here where no one else is going to.
Well, you don't think of that too, Michelle. Think about it as yourself. You're buying the biggest purchase of your life. It's the most stressful purchase of your life. It's the most money you'll spend on anything that you buy. And then it comes time to the closing day, the biggest moment, the excitement. People don't even sleep the night before. They're so nervous. Now they're signing a stack of papers that make you cringe. You look at an amortization schedule for 30 years, and I like to be there to soften the blows on those things. So when they're there, they know I'm there to support them. But when somebody looks at an amortization schedule, it'll make you freak, because you'll think, oh my God, my first payment's not going to hit for the first 10 years. But you got to break it down and say, listen, if you're smart, you're going to go ahead and make one extra payment a year. You're going to knock off 5, 6, 7 years of interest. You give them room to breathe through the process. So when they're done, you are their ally again. So anyone who doesn't go to a closing, I can't tell you what you're missing out on with that client as far as future deals, and then of course referrals. They will they'll make or break you. And and to me, when I get touch points like an inspection or an appraisal or a closing, you gravitate and take those as quickly as you can, in my opinion, because you won't get that opportunity again.
I think we should open it up maybe to questions. Does anyone on here have any questions for Mr. Mauer about real estate, starting out as an agent? Anything?
No, I had questions, but you stole my thunder.
Oh,
Yeah,
don't be
Michelle.
shy. Ask anything you guys want. There's no
Michelle
there's
asked all the questions.
No, well, basically, I'm a new realtor. I've been mortgage brokering for a while, so I'm dual licensed now, and my wife
Gotcha.
is also a mortgage broker. So I'm more of a buyer side agent, is where I'm focusing on. That way, I could capture the whole buyer's side process.
Gotcha.
So yeah, my blocker right now is, like you were saying, everybody that I've rub elbows with, they're all seasoned, so they're getting all their referrals from past clients and whatnot. So I'm struggling with the gaining my sphere, I guess you would call it, growing my sphere.
Right. This is Daryl,
So
right?
yes,
Hey, Daryl. So I'm going to ask a question, Daryl. Why are
sure.
you primarily focused on buyers only? Is buyers, because I will tell you, and this is just me, Michelle, or anybody in this group can add or to this or correct me if you think I'm wrong, but listings, are much more easier. Maybe easier isn't the right word. Listings just tend to be, when you deal with listings, the process of a listing versus the process of a buyer, in my opinion, and I was a buyer's agent in the beginning, 100%, until I realized the power of a listing too. Now, I do both now. Don't get me wrong. I do both. But I will tell you, I spend an enormous amount of time more on buyers than I do on listings. Listings is, you get the house, you get the sale, you get the price point, you do your comps, you put your sign up, you photograph it professionally, you stage it, you get that house ready and you put it up. Now, granted, we're in a market where it's tougher now. So depending on what type of listing you have, you're going to know if it's going to sell quick or not based on the price point, the area, etc. So I'm pretty savvy on being able to price. The buyer portion in today's market is lucrative, but interest rates are a little bit higher right now, and the showing process is a little bit more lengthy. Have you switched that gear at all to try to focus a little bit on listings where you're capitalizing on both?
Well, like I said, I'm very new, and this is not my full-time job either. So
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I haven't, I said that I was focusing on buyer side because that way we can, kind of get the full the 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 buy and the loan at the same
Oh,
time.
I gotcha. That's right. With you, that's right. With your
Yes.
husband,
So that's
I
why
got
that's why I'm
that makes sense.
focusing on that. But like you say, I would never turn down a listing, if one comes
No,
my
no.
way.
I
Yeah.
apologize, Daryl. You're right. With your wife being an LO, and you coming from that background and now being a buyer, you're right. Those two marry each other 100%. With being able to do the buyer and the loan, it's a double win. So I can definitely
Yeah,
see
so
that strategy.
I would I would say I'm leaning more towards buyer, but
Yeah.
like you, I would never say no, I'm just a buyer, have a nice day. I would never do that.
Well, yeah, no, no, of course not. None of us would. I think that the whole gist of all this is they're both equally as lucrative. The buyer and the listing side are. One of them creates a challenge to the other. The buyer, you're going to have to show homes for interest rates, making sure that the payment applies in today's market. And then the listing is, did I price it right? And is it not going to sit? And making sure it moves with the competition in the neighborhood. So they both bring challenges, I think, in today's market. I've just noticed over my career with being I'm on year 14 now, that I fare a little bit strongly more to the listing side. Just for the fact of that I'm able to control it. And I love the opportunity of getting a listing call off of that listing and being able to represent both sides. Because when you get a both two-sided deal, that's when you really start making some money because you're paid double. It's a
Yep.
challenging feat because you've got to have, both clients' best interests at heart, and your ethical obligation is to both. And that's challenging. I'm not going to lie. It's very challenging, especially when you get to inspection and something comes up and your seller doesn't agree, but you got to be for your buyer. I mean, it represents challenge, but I always think in the back of my head, what am I going to make from this? And you take that challenge on, depending on what the price point is and what your overall commission payment's going to be. We could all say it's not a driver, but it is.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. Anybody else? I don't know how many people you got in here, Michelle. I think there's only about 3 or 4.
Yeah, not too many right now.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything else you'd like to share just about, like you said in the beginning, you started out, you kind of judged a book by its cover. Do you have any other lessons that you've learned? I mean, every transaction is going to be so different. If there's anything else you'd like to share.
For me, just to wrap it, you've got to be able to, like I've said in the beginning, you can be the best numbers guy, you can be the savviest sales. This industry is very difficult when it comes to, I'll just say it for what it is. There's a lot of arrogance out there, a lot of money thrown around. People, some agents, are difficult to work with, just like in any industry. But what I have found and what has made me successful is being able to build the relationship. I can't say it enough. It's not about, the number, the knowledge. It's all parts, it's all pieces to the puzzle. But the number one thing is responsiveness, being available. You're not just a real estate agent, you're a life coach too. I deal with a lot of clients that are going through divorce. I deal with a lot of clients in probate, death, funeral, family. There's so many different facets of life that you deal with in this industry. And if you don't have compassion for the person and you put them first, and if they call you at 10 p.m. at night, you answer your phone. I am available 24/7. I try to be, at least. It's probably a problem because it does create a little bit of a less of a balance for me in life. But I also feel like I try to take time more towards the latter part of the year when it's not so, congested. Summertime is really the bulk of my business. I do the most between probably March and September. So I try to wind down at the end of the year, and I hold that kind of for my wind down time. But the other months, I'm working and I'm available, and I make sure that the client knows that I am their ally. I'm part of the family. I make it fun. I make them laugh. I just become part of who they are. And you've got to be able to read people. Not every client is, as we all know, and people are the same. Some of them are difficult. Some of them, you close the home and you're like, oh my God, I don't care if I ever speak to them again. And there's other ones out there that you get, it's like withdrawal because you've talked to them every day. The house closes and the communication stops. And then you're on to the next client. So it's just making sure that you become, the best way to say it is, a member of their family, someone that they feel that they can trust with their biggest asset in life, and that you're in their corner and you fight for them and you're part of their team. When you have that bond, nobody can break it. And that bond then carries over to the next member of their family or friend that they tell you about. Hey, I worked with Bill and he did this, this, and this. You'll love him. We loved him. That's the things you want people to say. Not that they liked you when you went there and you got them a good deal, that they loved you and you were there with them up until the end, which is the closing table and the walkthrough, and then do that philosophy of, or that method of, following up within about 2 to 3 months and visiting them again. You will lock in the referral when you do that. So, don't just close the deal and walk away, because once you do that, so will they. You're out of their mind too then. So you got to keep yourself just always fresh in their mind of who you are and what you represent and that you care. At the bottom line, at the end of the day, showing that you care, and like I said, being part of who they are is going to make you successful in this industry. If you don't have that type of personality and you can't conform to who they are, and you'll get some clients that are nasty and you'll be like, oh my God, but you got to conform to it. You got to take it. You get beat on, you take them just like in any job. But you got to come out smiling and making sure that they're the ones in the driver's seat and they're your top priority, and whatever they say goes. But you educate them and give them your knowledge base along the way. Partner with great people. Make sure you got a good lender, good title company, good inspector, quality people that represent you. And don't forget, those people that represent you also can help you in your marketing. I don't pay for all my marketing. If I'm working with a lender, they're helping. If I'm working with the inspector, he's or she is helping me. If I'm working with title, they're helping. They pay my marketing expenses with me. So you throw them X amount of business, you should be able to get something in return from them. And you market them on your mailers and your so forth, but you're able to offset some of that expense too. Those are all big things and these people are all a reflection of you. So when all those good people reflect off of who you are, then you wrap the whole, I'll just say the whole package gets wrapped at the end at the closing table, and should provide you with a good 2 to 3 solid leads from that. I average about 2 leads per customer, 2 referrals in most cases per customer, almost every transaction, because of that process. So hope that makes sense, but that's really the gist of it. This is relationship, relationship, relationship all the way.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any other last questions for him? I'll give it a second.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
Hey, good stuff. Thank you for sharing. I'm also a newer agent here at Maverick. What's your take on technology, AI? I know I've been waiting on that for a minute. and
That's a
I need to be
great
organized. That's my problem.
That's a great segment. First and foremost, you guys are probably with one of the I know John personally, and I'll say Maverick and Michelle and what they're building there is just amazing. So let me just preface that with saying you're probably with one of the best companies when it comes to
Mm,
new technology. John's super innovative. So is Michelle on what they're bringing you to be able to make you successful. Remember,
yes,
they can give you all the tools, but if you don't use them, they're irrelevant. So, but they're
you're right.
very, very
You're
good
right.
at that.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
right.
I love IA. AI. I love it. I live it. In fact, it's so weird that you're asking me that question because I am borderline obsessed with it now, where even from a health perspective, I wake up in the morning, I wear this Aura ring, I go to my phone, I want to see how I slept. I take those stats, I stick them in Chat GPT. I name her Karen. Karen tells me
Yeah.
how my health is for the day, and I live and breathe it. And sometimes it creates more anxiety for me where I'm like, oh God, I thought that metric was good and it wasn't. So in work, though, I'll tell you where it's been amazing for me has been on listings and my narratives and being able to, write the description of the home to be able to kind of put bits and pieces that maybe I wouldn't have thought of in my narratives to kind of help write. I think it's also very good when it comes to CMAs and the neighborhood and the demographics. Or you'll get a lot of clients too, and you got to be very careful about this. Oh, you didn't tell me that this neighborhood had Asian people in it. You didn't tell me this neighborhood had this. Well, we can't tell them that. That's not our job. I always say that's steering. And as you guys remember on your real estate test, steering is forbidden. We don't steer people away. We have to say, well, demographics are this. I can give them demographics that they can look up anywhere. But AI is a great source to kind of narrow down what a particular neighborhood has, what it has to offer, what's close by. I love it. I think the technology is amazing. I noticed, Michelle, you on this meeting, you have an AI recording bot or AI something that's doing. So there's so many facets of AI that you could really use to your advantage in real estate, but don't let it be your driver. Let it be like an enhancement piece for you. Like, like I'm saying, with listings and demographics and even use it when you're in difficult scenarios too. I've done it where, I've had this client, I talked to her. I have this client, she's an elderly lady, she's in probate, she's got this, XX, and I'll give my scenario and I'll listen back for feedback from AI, what they think the rational decision should be. Do I use it? No, but I'll take bits and pieces of it, to help me. So I think it's an amazing tool. It's all in how you use it. Like I
Yeah.
said,
Around
yeah, from a
organized.
health perspective, I might die next week if I listen to her. But it's all in how you use it and what you do with it. But I find it super, super helpful, and I use it every day in some capacity.
No, thank you. Yeah, that's what I was trying to, get organized. I think I'm waiting on that. And just getting a plan. Like, what do you
You know, put
suggest?
it put it in there. One thing great about AI is you can come out and ask anything just like you would to anybody else. Hey, I'm a real estate agent and I'm new and I'm struggling in the market. What tactics do you think I can use to make me better? Or what CRM out there is the best and why? Just generalized questions that sometimes you can throw out there because a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking to their coach or doing something. One thing I want to say too to you guys, especially being new, is try to get yourself what is called an accountability coach. I had it for the first 5 years I was an agent, because you're going to find yourself when you're not busy, laxing off. This job is very easy to not be productive in. When you don't have anything coming in, you can get down. When you have an accountability coach, someone that's good and successful that has a system in place, and they kind of follow you and they hold you accountable to stuff that you say you're going to do and you don't do. And it could be brutal. I had one for 5 years and she was tough. She's one of the best. Her name is Veronica Figueroa. She's one of the biggest brokers in the state right now with EXP.
Wow, wow, that's
It,
big right there. Yeah, I know Veronica.
yeah, I worked with Veronica for 9 years. I know her personally. She's a great friend of my family, and actually my youngest daughter, Carly, knows her daughter, Talisa.
He
We're
does
very
great
connected
marketing.
with her. She's a powerhouse when it comes to marketing. I mean, she's worth probably over 100 million right now in just her actual net worth. But I utilized her for about 5 years. Let me tell you, she kicked my ass for the first couple years. But it was the best thing because things I said I wasn't going to do, I didn't like to do, she made me do. And it's like using a transaction coordinator. I never wanted to relinquish my files to anybody. I was a control freak. I wanted to manage them. I didn't want anybody touching anything. But then I got so busy, I was missing things. And she was, get a TC. You got to get a TC. Your life will be so much better. Stop being cheap. Spend the money. I spent the money 9 years ago. Oh my, I couldn't live without her now. I couldn't do my job because I opened up another avenue I just simply wasn't willing to relinquish control on.
Right.
So
Leverage. That's what you're saying?
leverage, yes, beautifully said. That's 100%. Use it as leverage, use it as a tool. But if you
But I like
find
that
yourself,
accountability. Maybe I tell
yes,
Gabe to be on top of me. I'm on top of him.
yeah,
Like, it should be the other way around.
yeah. I mean, you just, I'm telling you, I was against it in the beginning until I saw other people use them. And I saw the results of it, and I said, "Let me try it." And she was kind enough to do it for me, and it was like I said, it was one of the best things I ever did because everything I learned in those fives and the things I was accountable for, I use today frequently and fluently. So there's a huge advantage of it if you're willing to do it. That's the big thing. You have to be willing to be accountable and listen to the advice, even if you don't want to hear it, you still got to be accountable to do it.
No, thank you. That was great.
No, you're welcome.
One
Uh,
thing
Anytime.
I will say with ChatGPT or Claude or whatever AI you choose to use, if you are going to use it for your listing descriptions, please just don't copy and paste it. Because
Yes, so thank you.
can tell. So you could use a lot of what's written, just change it slightly. That's my
You
only.
know, that's thank you, Michelle. And I don't want anyone to think that you're right because there's nothing more cringeworthy as when you go into a listing and you can tell immediately that it was AI generated. Um, I use it for buzzwords. I'll look at a listing and AI will write the narrative, but I'm a writer by trade anyway, a marketing guy. So I take buzzwords from that and apply them to my own narrative. Because remember, the client's going to see what you wrote about their home. They're going to know if you did an AI backward step to try to, not do your job. So I just incorporate my own verbiage, but I just take a few buzzwords maybe just to help, maybe highlight some certain things of words that I, maybe not have thought of. And I use just a part of it. But Michelle's right. Definitely don't cut and paste because they'll find out. And it won't, you'll look like you're backdooring the system and you don't know how to write a narrative, which you don't want them to think.
All right, one final call for questions. If no one has anything, thank you again for your time. I really appreciate you hopping on here and giving us this training today.
No, of course, anytime. Happy to help you guys. If anybody has any questions, even offsite, my cell phone, 407-497-3112. I'd be happy to help, ask any questions. You get better by helping and asking people. This job is not easy by any way, shape, or form. And waking up every day and not selling something or doing something can be depressing. So, we've all been there.
Yeah.
Nobody has started in real estate and has made $1 million their first year or even 150,000 their first year. We've all suffered and gone through it. So if you ever need just a bit of advice or help, I'd be happy to
What's the
help
number
anybody.
again?
407-497-3112. And I always said, anybody connected to John, he's such a great
Well, what
guy.
is this for? Just to call you or what?
Yeah, just give me a holler, send me a text, give me a call. If you have a question on something, I'd be happy to answer it for you guys.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
send you what I'm working on, maybe, or just my
Yeah, I
flyer.
mean, if you find yourself, hey, I'm Bill, I'm working on this, or I've got this, or whatever, slip me a text or a call. I'll be happy to answer anything you guys have.
Well, I'm saying my concept that I'm wanting to work on in real estate. So,
Absolutely, send it over. I'd be happy to help you.
well, you got it. Thank you.
You got it.
Have a great week, everyone. Thank you so much again, Mr. Mauer.
You got it, Michelle. Thanks so
Awesome.
much, honey. Have a good day. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
bye.